Hi, I am Jasenia, the New England Psychic Medium. I just wanted to do a live here. I just did a live in another group that I'm in about spiritual gifts, and I thought, well, I'm an admin in this group. I should probably do something in this group too. So one of my gifts is to see gifts in others, and I do this through the chakras. Now, all of my information is derived from what I see in clients and through my work, so it's not attached to any particular modality or structure or religion. It's just what I see and work with daily. So the cool thing about gifts, I would say, is that they're stored in specific chakras or energies of your soul structure. So chakras to me are energetic filing systems of the soul. When I look at somebody's energy, I can look into their chakras and I can kind of pull open the information that's stored there. That information can be past lives, traumas, obstructions, blocks, and sometimes just fears based on those experiences. Sometimes what blocks our gifts is not actually past lives, but the not acknowledging our gifts. So a lot of us don't actually know what our gifts do, therefore we can't actively use them. So that's an issue that I come across a lot with other people. So in terms of searching for gift structures in the chakras, sometimes one gift structure can have multiple names. So one name, can have multiple structures. So an empath, for example, everybody likes to use the term empath, but they don't really know what that looks like inside the chakras. So an empath is somebody who has fragments of gifts in many of their chakra structures. So they're opening to their local energy, they're digesting emotion, they're protecting themselves and others during that process, they're transmuting the negative energy into positive energy, hopefully, and then releasing that for some kind of healing. Sometimes they have psychic abilities connected to that. Sometimes they're channeling specific information from other elements. Now, that's a mixture of empath skills with other skills. Hi, good morning. So what they do is they're actually using a whole bunch of gifts that we call empath. Now, empath is a variation, meaning that you can have people beginning your empath gift journey in this life, or we can have people who are on their 400th life developing their empath skills. So their empath skills are more actually what we would call extrasensory abilities, and that means they have heightened abilities in all senses. So they have what some people refer to as the clairs. Essentially all their senses are heightened, and they can use that tool or those tools to digest information in their surroundings by helping others heal or helping others work through their traumas or helping others see clearly. So it's really interesting to see how the gifts align into the chakras. Now, in terms of removing blocks, the best way to connect yourself to your own gift structure is by healing. So through meditation, we can remove all the kind of obstructions in our environment. Those obstructions can include, sound or struggle or distraction or fear, clutter. It's almost like mental and energetic clutter. That's what meditation is constructed to do. It's created to bring us to a place of clear, quiet the monkey mind, they say. So it's a place to bring us to a clear connection free of fear and bias and obstructions. And in that way, we can tune into our intuition better. Now, everybody can tap into their intuition. Your intuition is an extension of your higher self. So our intuition is always available to us. We can always tap into information from our higher self. Our higher self is what I call the soul's database. It carries all your soul level experiences and all your soul level knowledge. So when we are in meditation and we are accessing our higher self through our crown chakra, we are actually opening up to our soul's database, which allows us to take in a lot more information. It's almost like having, it's our 5D mind, I call it, because it's energy that can't fit into the structures or confines of our mind. So we are finding a way to embrace both aspects, the physical and spiritual database, at the same time, which is amazing. So, sorry, there's a fly hanging around. So the gift structure, meditation and healing, that's how we activate our gifts. We can work to, when we know what gifts we have and what chakras they reside in, we can tune into those chakras to develop our gifts further. Now, most people will take their gift and never know that they can actually develop it. They will actually just keep using it the way that it is, never knowing that they're improperly using it. So, for example, let's say somebody is an empath, but they don't really know it, then that means that they're probably taking in a lot of negative energy from their environment. They're probably absorbing a lot of negative energy from others, a lot of heavy emotional debris. They're probably not releasing or digesting that negative energy back into earth for healing and reconstruction. And they're probably instead just avoiding community. That's really common for empaths. Most of them are so overwhelmed by their gifts that they actually just hide from them, and they end up alone and separated and secluded from society. Now, that isn't necessary, of course. When you learn what gifts you have and what chakras are in and the tools we have to digest or protect ourselves from, our energy or environment or others' energies, then we can set up really nice, strong, protective structures, energetic structures. And then we can kind of function better. We can be alert, we can be aware, we can be productive, we can kind of reach back out into the world. So it's really important information that I think everybody would benefit knowing. In terms of the empath gift structure, now like I said, all gifts vary. To me, they're like a thumbprint. I feel like everybody's soul structure is so unique that two have never really been the same. And the reason is because our gifts are really decided on our soul's origins, so our soul group, where we were born at soul level. And it's also decided on our soul's first spark. So our soul's first spark or soul birth is the collection of energy in the cosmos at the time of our birth. So what was present? What kind of gifts or tools were given to us at our soul's birth? What was present? What did we experience? And then our soul structure or lives are experienced. So where has your soul traveled to expand these gifts? Where has your soul developed? How many lives or incarnations has your soul had? This amplifies our gifts, each different aspect. So because none of us have had the same exact amount of lives and the same exact origin and the same exact place of birth at the same exact God spark in the same exact soul group, there is no two souls alike. We are all very unique in our structure in some form or the other. Even empaths, as I said a couple times, have completely different tools that kind of merge together to create what we call an empath. And I'm using empath as one example because the first video I did about this in the previous group ran over an hour, so I wanted to make this one a little bit shorter. So I won't be diving into the other gift structures too much, only because there's so much information in each gift structure that it would take hours. So in terms of the empath gift structure, the basic overall energy in their gift structure starts with the root. The root is usually how they retrieve energy from their environment, or information, I would say. This can be like digesting information in your environment or observing energy in your environment. And then we have the sacral chakra, which is usually some kind of transmuter of negative energy. How they do this and what tools they have to use to do this depend on, again, their specific structure. But usually what we do is any energy that we absorb through the solar plexus, we now digest through the sacral chakra and transmute into positive energy somehow, and then release that back into the environment somehow. So a lot of empaths don't actually know that, and therefore they carry a lot of negative energy and they let it weigh them down, and it becomes very obstructive, very intrusive, and very heavy, and it can be a reason why a lot of people try to numb their gifts through alcohol or other ways, because they feel like they're feeling too much, and it's because they don't know how to properly digest that energy, or they aren't actively protecting their gifts. So we can set up what I call energetic barriers or boundaries. That's usually the solar plexus can expand to be a shield. Now everybody has a different protective structure that works best for them. Some people imagine themselves in a cylinder or a sphere. Some people imagine themselves in an energetic pyramid. Some people really focus on the grounding aspect and don't actually put up any protective walls at all. They feel like if they're grounded, then they can be aware and observant without absorbing energy. But I always recommend some kind of protective shield. The reason why we use protective barriers or boundaries is because if we don't, our soul is 5D, so it kind of just floats everywhere and picks everything up. And that's why we have such a hard time in public or crowded spaces. We're walking around picking anything and everything up, and that can be very overwhelming for our soul and our energy. That's why we go home, we get sick, we get ill, we get confused, we grab attachments, we can bring them all back home with us. And So much so that people actually stop using their gifts most of the time because they feel like it's too overwhelming to handle. So those protective barriers do help us control what we let in and out. Now, the heart chakra is usually some kind of healing, usually how we work with the population. How do we heal? Is it through our hands? Is it through our spoken word? Is it through our presence? Is it through energy codes? How are we made to heal and help others? Then we have the throat chakra, which is usually some kind of channeling of wisdom or compassion or love. What tools do we have? Also, there's telepathy, there's like divine communication. What tools do we have to assist others? Is it channeling from source? Is it channeling from soul groups? Is it channeling from, the angelic soul group? It depends. Everybody's set up differently. Usually you can channel from your own soul group. Some people have the ability to channel from more than one realm or dimension, and that's because they've established that connection at soul level over time. So that gift can become a part of our gift structure. For example, if you're going to find and see somebody who has traumas, then you probably want to know how to help them work through that with a guiding voice. So that would be, again, the throat chakra. Then we have the third eye. Now, the third eye is really interesting because the third eye is not just psychic. It has the ability to see lots of different things. We can see energetic bodies. We can see the past. We can see the present. We can see the future. We can see negative energy, we can see demonic entities, and we can see hauntings, all with the third eye, but those are all separate gifts. So somebody can have 10 of those, or somebody can have all of those, or somebody can have one of those. So what we see depends on our gift structure and our location and our practice and our experience. So again, it's extensive. Now, the crown chakra is where we find our mediumship skills. So some empaths can also be mediums. Some empaths can also be psychic. So some empaths can also be energy healers. So it all depends how your structure aligns. And in the crown, we have medium, and medium is different than psychic. And the reason is because a medium gift, they actually open a portal to other dimensions, and they call in souls. So that's why mediums can access souls that have crossed over, not just hauntings here in this realm. So some mediums don't see hauntings. Some people who see hauntings don't see crossover souls. In the crown chakra, we also have the ability to see demonic entities, and we also have the ability to see guides. So guides, demonic entities, and beings that have crossed over are all on other dimensions. They don't reside here. So again, that's the difference between the crown chakra. The crown chakra is our connection to our higher self, therefore our connection to our dimension. But if we have a gift there, usually that gift includes interdimensional travel. So that means going in and out of other dimensions to communicate with other dimensions that are not present here right now. And that would be like a haunting. A haunting is a spirit or soul that is stuck here on Earth's plane, right here in front of us and around us. So it's a different energy structure. It's a different gift structure. Now, I see gifts in others, and then I do gift activations and gift training, and we do past life removal and healing, because healing is always going to be our priority. So if we have somebody who is unhealed and traumatized, then what happens is it acts kind of like, it dilutes, it diffuses their gifts. So their gifts are kind of like drowning in all of that pain and suffering, and they can't really tap into their intuition. But also, our vessels are not full. So if we are traumatized or wounded, we're kind of walking around pouring energy into our environment. And this means that we're just draining energy. So we don't have the energy to fuel those gifts either. So healing is always a priority. So that's why I always tell people, if you're having a hard time focusing your gifts or zoning in your gifts or developing your gifts, is because more healing needs to be done. And all of a sudden they do the healing, and all of a sudden their gifts are just boom, boom, boom everywhere. And they're like, well, now I see, now I feel. So I always tell people too that I don't use the clairs. The clairs are the clear hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, because I feel like they're very vague. They don't really explain specific things. Now with the third eye, like I said, we can have somebody who sees the past, sees the present, sees the future, or sees all. We can have somebody who sees the energetic body, or sees hauntings, or sees negative energy. So it's different. What you see is specific to your gift structure. So just to say clear seeing doesn't really open up to what they are seeing. And when you know what you're seeing, and when you know what your gifts, have strengths, if you know where your strengths are, you can actively use and develop them. So it's really amazing and interesting. So working on our gifts means that we are directing energy specifically to that chakra, that location, that place, that energetic bridge, knowing exactly what we're doing, and that only makes it stronger. Awareness is very strong. It's our strongest tool, being aware of what we're doing and how we're using our abilities. And something else I wanted to talk about, everybody has gifts. I think this is interesting because a lot of people have a lot of qualms or biases about people who make money off of their gifts. And to me, I think it's interesting because I see gifts in others. So I can see people who are musicians, who are famous musicians, who are actually channelers of divine codes or messages that are sending that message out through their music. And they are allowed to make money. There are people who are healers that have been drawn to daycares or in nursing or doctors, and they're allowed to use their gift in a way that makes money. And there are people who are artists. Artists are also channelers of divine message codes and energies. What they're doing is they're actually expressing something to help the collective in growth through their art and their work. So I always share this because I think that there's a lot of qualms and limits there. We limit certain gifts and how they should be expressing or using their gifts, but then we allow other people with gifts to be fully expressed. And I feel like it's a big challenge for a lot of healers now in this world because more people have woken up to their gifts than ever before. So we have a lot of people actively, working towards their development and their gift structures and trying to find their life's purpose and trying to teach or heal. And we have a lot of people who are obstructing that, but still, buy the album of an artist who's channeling divine source energy and also using their gifts. So we have a lot of limitations that we've set up or that we've fallen for in our structure. So I think it's always important to understand. I've never actually came across anybody who didn't have gifts. Sometimes we have gifts that make us better at our job. For example, charisma, sales, customer service, being likable, drawing people closer. Those are all gifts we can find in our energetic gift structure that people use in their jobs every single day. So we do have gifts, and I call gifts really, they're more just like tools of the soul, because the soul gives us these tools. We pick these lives based off our structure. So we pick these lives knowing that somewhere in our soul structure we have the tools gifted to us to be able to manage the life given to us. So we pick our lives based off our soul structure. And that includes our tools and gifts. So we will always, I always say, because our gifts are so unique, it's important that we stay very true to our gift structure. And what this simply means is that you're always going to be strongest by developing your specific gifts. When you are active and owning who you are, then you're functioning in integrity and in authenticity. And that is a very powerful place to be. Essentially, everything that is created off of illusion will eventually crumble. So if you're super focused on trying to develop medium abilities, but you're actually more of an empath, then what you're doing is you're just diverting energy from your empath gift structure to gifts that don't exist, really trying to create something that's not there. But if you are super focused on your empath gift structure, if you give it all you have, if you understand all the chakras, if you understand how all the chakras are playing to assist you in that gift, eventually that gift might get so strong that it starts using other chakras and starts developing other branches and fragments, which might include, mediumship gifts. So it really is the place to be, is to focus on what you do have and then to really put your energy there. Now, energy is like muscle, and people don't really pay attention to that. The more you use your energy, the more you channel specific guides or specific connections, or the more you use it, the more you connect, the stronger it becomes. So important for using our gifts, I would say always use some kind of guided meditation and make sure you're properly grounded. If we're not properly grounded and connected to our higher self at the same time, I always say that that's the proper energetic connection, because we are always flushing negative energy but rooted, so our bodies have constant fuel. We are earthly beings. Being rooted and grounded to earth means that we are conductors of earth's energy. When we want to open to our higher self or source, we do that through the crown, and in that way we connect to our higher self and not our environment. So we're not picking up local energetic trash, we're picking up the divinity of our higher self. and all our connections should come through that. When we are fully connected, we are conductors of energy and not sources of energy. Now, being a source of energy will deplete you, it exhausts you, it can really, it makes you dizzy, confused, irritable. You might crave a bunch of food after connection or meditation. You might sleep during meditation. Essentially, you're draining yourself because you're not properly grounded and you're not properly connected to source. When we are properly connected, we have infinite energy. Source is infinite, earth is infinite, so we have a lot of infinite energy. We can be conductors of that divinity without feeling drained and exhausted. So having a proper connection is always important. And then meditation. Meditation is made to clear the monkey mind so that you can focus on your intuition, and your intuition will guide you in developing your abilities. So your intuition will come through and say, well, focus on the throat chakra. And in that way, any gifts that reside in the throat chakra will be activated, clean, and cleared by throat chakra activities. So knowing where they reside does actually help us develop them. If we are trying to practice our channeling, then we might be drawn to blue. We might be drawn to blue crystals like lapis lazuli. We might be drawn to other things in the throat. For example, negative self-talk is a very limiting factor when it comes to channeling. If we are consuming a lot of alcohol that becomes a block to our throat chakra, we are taking in what obstructs our throat. And other things that block the throat, so negative self-talk, abusive like self-talk and behavior, self-limiting beliefs, usually third eye, to see self in a limiting manner. So by unlocking that, by healing that, by talking properly to ourselves, by releasing any negative self-talk, we're actually amplifying our gifts more and more. So knowing where our gifts reside is really important to our development of them, and we can take that intuition through our higher self. Now, I always note that tools of divination are just an extension of our energy. So your higher self is the only one that should be coming through to guide your tools of divination. Making that connection is really important. If we don't establish that connection, we can kind of just be like, we're just saying, anybody take over my tool and show me some kind of information. We have to always be very direct and clear with our intention. Intention is very important because it creates allowance, it creates a permission. So when we are opening to a tool of divination and we say, just anybody take over and tell me, then we allow anything to kind of come into our experience and take over our tools of divination. So when we are connecting, we should always say, higher self, guide me. And our higher self will take over and not allow intruders. But we also must remember that we can always sway our tools of divination through our perception. Again, humans are very biased naturally. We have survival mechanisms. We might want something so bad that we see it even if it's not real in our experience. And that means like, oh, everybody who picks up a pendulum for the first time thinks they're going to be a millionaire because they'll ask their pendulum, well, am I going to be a millionaire? And their pendulum might say yes, but that is because your biased self says, I want to be a millionaire desperately, so I'm going to sway the reading. But we don't know it. It only takes, a fragment of a movement. So in a way, we have to release our bias if we want a clear, accurate reading. And that's where meditation comes in, releasing all our bias, all our wants, all our needs, all our desires, and simply being open, being in the moment, being receptive to information from intuition. And that can be a really powerful tool. So again, I just wanted to share some information on gifts, how they reside in the gift structures, and how actively knowing where they reside and working on them can really help us evolve those gifts to make them a lot stronger. In 2019, more people opened up to their gifts or woke up to their gifts than ever before in the history of Earth. So I think it's really important that people kind of acknowledge that and then use that knowledge to build their own gifts and gift structures. It's also interesting because, like I said, a lot of people have gifts that don't even know they have gifts. So it's important to know and to keep developing self. And again, ask questions. If anybody has questions, you can list them on the video even after, and I will go through them and answer as I can. Thanks for listening.